Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a stark warning, stating that if Ukraine is permitted to use Western-supplied long-range missiles against targets inside Russia, it would signify NATO's direct participation in the conflict. Speaking on Thursday, Putin emphasized that the use of such weapons could drastically alter the dynamics of the ongoing war.
Flight assignments for these missile systems can, in fact, only be entered by military personnel of NATO countries. Ukrainian military personnel cannot do this. Therefore, we are not talking about allowing the Ukrainian regime to strike Russia with these weapons or not. We are talking about making a decision about whether NATO countries are directly involved in the military conflict or not.
Putin explained that these precision-guided missiles rely on intelligence from NATO satellites and require technical input from NATO military personnel for targeting and flight programming.
The Ukrainian army is not capable of striking with modern long-range precision systems of Western manufacture. It cannot do this. This is only possible using intelligence data from satellites, which Ukraine does not have. This data is only from satellites of the European Union or the United States in general, from NATO satellites.
He warned that such a decision would fundamentally change the nature of the war.
If this decision is made, it will mean nothing less than the direct participation of NATO countries, the United States and European countries in the war in Ukraine. This is their direct participation. And this, of course, significantly changes the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that NATO countries, the United States and European countries are fighting against Russia.
The debate over Ukraine's request for long-range missiles, such as the US-made ATACMS and British Storm Shadow, continues to gain momentum. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly urged Western allies to allow the use of these weapons against Russian territory, aiming to curb Moscow's capacity to launch attacks. The United States and the UK are reportedly still considering Kyiv's plea, with concerns that allowing Ukraine to strike deep into Russian territory could escalate the conflict. Putin, however, made it clear that permitting such strikes would pull the missile-supplying nations into direct confrontation with Russia. He reiterated that any decision allowing Ukraine to launch such strikes would not only draw NATO into the conflict, but would force Russia to reassess its military strategy.
And if this is so, then, bearing in mind the change in the very essence of this conflict, we will make appropriate decisions based on the threats that will be created for us.
Putin also hinted at potential retaliatory actions, alluding to previous discussions about arming Western adversaries with Russian weapons or positioning conventional missiles within striking distance of the US and its allies. Additionally, Russia is currently revising its nuclear doctrine, exploring conditions under which it might resort to the use of nuclear weapons. Putin has faced pressure from influential foreign policy figures within Russia to expand the doctrine and explicitly include the possibility of using nuclear arms against nations backing NATO's support for Ukraine. The Kremlin's stance reflects a growing tension as Kyiv continues to press for advanced weaponry, while the West carefully navigates its involvement, wary of provoking further escalation.